Hello, welcome to Menopause, a portal to our wisdom years. I'm Dr. Shana Johnston, and I want to talk to you a little bit about what I've been learning on my own journey, making my way through this challenging menopause transition, and some of the things that have helped me the most in navigating this transition. And so, what I want to talk about today is primarily I want to encourage us to question what we've been taught about menopause, and do we get to instead begin seeing it as life inviting us into a process of growth and transformation. So rather than this kind of society gives us this kind of impression that we're kind of past our prime and getting old and kind of just shriveling up, when really I think what's happening is we're moving through a process of growth and transformation. And so that's why I really like the metaphor of the caterpillar to the butterfly. And I think of perimenopause as that time in the middle of being in the chrysalis, of when we dissolve into caterpillar soup, as we dissolve who we were previously, so that who we're becoming can emerge. And I think that's what this portal is all about. And really it's is the way I've come to see it, is that it's life inviting us into our elder years. It's life kind of squeezing us through this process, through this portal, so that we can become the wise women, the elders, the matriarchs that our world so desperately needs. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. And in terms of why I'm talking about this, so I'm a family doctor, but I actually am. I'm not a menopause expert in the academic sense of the word, in that I don't have my NAMS certification and that kind of thing. But I am an expert in the lived experience of a rough menopause transition. I joke that because I used to be one of the physicians that really didn't know much about menopause. Like back 5 years ago, it's embarrassing how much I knew about menopause care. And then life sent me on the uh, embodied intensive. In other words, I went through it myself and it was rough. And so in that process, I've learned a lot. I've done a lot of reading. I've been going to a lot of conferences. I've been like doing a lot of things to really educate myself. And so now I'm an expert in the basics. And I also am an expert in the lived experience of what a rough menopause transition feels like. And I've been using that. So I run group medical visits for women, like a two-part group medical visit for women going through menopause, the first one on hormone basics and the second part on navigating menopause together. So kind of just all the things kind of beyond the hormones. Um, and in doing that, it's been really fun because it's been an opportunity to answer my soul's calling, which I actually felt in my early perimenopause. I could feel my soul calling me into, and it was hard to give voice to it, but I could feel this energy of being pulled towards something that I now recognize as what I'm now doing in the world of helping women to remember their inner wisdom and connect with each other in community. And I didn't know what it looked like back then. And it's interesting because it was as I was beginning perimenopause that those first inclinations were showing up. And I think it was the beginning of like that caterpillar knowing it was being called into the chrysalis to sort of move through. I'm not sure that I'm quite a butterfly yet, but I feel like I'm kind of getting the water squeezed out of my wings and just coming out on soon emerging. So that's where I'm coming from. And I think it's really important, that lived experience. And what I now like doing is sharing from what I've learned to try to help other women through this transition. And so that's what I'm primarily going to be talking about today. So I want to share a little bit of my own story, because I do believe in using story and vulnerability and leading by example, like leading through vulnerability. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about my own story. So I was pretty average, pretty textbook in terms of when I started perimenopause. I would have been like late 40s, like probably 46, 47. When I started noticing that the second half of my cycle, I would just get so squinchy, so irritable, so crabby. Like everything that everyone was doing for like half of my cycle, for the 10 to 14 days leading up to my period, I would just be so like it felt like everything that everyone was doing was like nails on a chalkboard, and it was just driving me crazy. just gets so squinchy. And I remember one time getting really upset with my husband about the way he was pulling up his pants. And so I was like, maybe I'm a little irrational right now. So I went to see my doctor. I tried a low dose birth control pill that didn't give me migraines. And so then I actually went on bioidentical progesterone. And that really did help. Like I really felt significantly better when went on the bioidentical progesterone. And what I mean by that is the body identical progesterone. So yeah, so I went on that and was doing significantly better and from there, it's kind of a little bit hard to sort out what was burnout and what was perimenopause because they were kind of this big tangled mess. Because at this time, so I was still in my family practice. I had a busy maternity practice, and I still had and a busy family practice. I was doing a 24-hour call shift once a week. My 8-hour days in the office were turned into 12-hour days in the office because I was taking a lot of the people that I was looking after didn't have a family doctor. And I felt really bad turning them away so that I would keep them in my practice. And my practice was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I had more and more to do and had to move faster and faster and faster. And it was getting harder and harder and harder to keep up. So it's just like this little hamster on a wheel, just running, 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 running. And, trying to be a mom as well, trying to look after my daughter, trying to be a wife, trying to just, a daughter, sister, all of the things. And I was looking after everyone else and not put and just not really neglect. And I was completely neglecting myself. I was helping everyone else with their oxygen masks and was not putting on my own oxygen mask. And so I was just traveling faster and faster and faster. And I remember in August 2020, this was about a month before my 50th birthday. And I hit the wall. And I remember the moment it happened. There was this moment where it was like, I felt like the pilot light that connects me to the essence of who I am. It just burnt out. And I stopped caring. And I'm a very caring person. I love to love people. That's just me. I just love to love people. I'm like a big care bear. And for me to stop caring was like, that was huge. And I was like, there is something really wrong. And so I knew I needed to make a change, and I knew I needed to do something different. And so I did make the very difficult decision to leave my practice, which was really hard because at that time, I had also painted myself into a corner of overfunctioning as the sole income earner for our family at the time, which that's a whole other story. But I had really painted myself into a corner of like doing way too much for way too many people for way too long, and I had nothing left. And I had to make the decision to start putting myself on the list of priorities and to really bring myself to the forefront of people I needed to look after. So I made the difficult decision to leave my practice. I did find two lovely young doctors to take over my practice, and it took 9 months to get that all sorted out. And in the spring of 2021, I left my practice. And from there, I actually started to do a bit better. It was rough though. Like I still was, I was I had a rough time. Like the next couple of years were really, really rough. But what I did do is I went way down on the number of hours that I was working. We went down to very bare bones in terms of expenses. And I started really making myself a priority and started looking after myself in body, mind, and spirit, and like really embarking on a healing journey and really beginning to look after myself. And so over the course of the next couple of years, I started to feel better. I started to do better and better and better. And I eventually even went off of my bioidentical progesterone. So I wasn't on any hormones at all. And I was doing okay. Like I was still anxious. I was still crying a lot. I still was there was still a lot going on. But I think because I'd felt so awful and now I only felt bad, and it seemed a lot more manageable. So I was like, I'm okay. I'm doing great. And so it was around this time that one of my colleagues had asked me to do a locum for her, that she had 2 weeks that she didn't have a locum. She was at my old practice, and she had 2 weeks between when her baby was due and when her locum could start. And I thought, I can cover 2 weeks. That's not so bad. I'm like, I'm healed from burnout, quote unquote, I'm healed. And I'm like, yeah. Anyway, and so little did I know, around the time I accepted this locum was around the time of my last period. And as the time in the months in the few months between when I agreed to do this locum and when I started it, the combination between my falling hormones from my from my periods having stopped, and really what I now in retrospect realize was the beginning of me going into menopause, met with the PTSD of being back in that situation of where I burnt out before. And I didn't really appreciate how many triggers were in clinic for me. And the combination of the PTSD and like the last cough of my ovaries was a really bad situation. I went from never having had a hot flash to having like having multiple hot flashes a night, waking up every 20 to 40 minutes, being awake for hours at night, being extremely anxious. I was so anxious. I felt like a human tuning fork. Like I felt like I was just buzzing with anxiety. And for a short period of time, I was suicidal. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the highest rate of suicide for women is between 45 and 55, because this transition is no joke. Um, and I do think that it also is a way of life shining a bright light on the parts of our lives that aren't working. Because I was actually doing a bit better back when I was looking after myself. And then suddenly leaning into having a substantial amount more stress, the wheels just came off of. And as soon as the wheels came off, it just sent me into a tailspin. And I spent the next 6 months just trying different hormones and trying different, like it took me the next 6 months just to get my feet under me again. And so I did go on hormones. I did go on estrogen and on progesterone. And later, about like a year later, I also went on testosterone. And in the process of like experimenting with all kinds of different things, I did start to get my feet under me, but it was really, really hard. And what I found was that it was when I actually was listening to my body and doing things that felt like what my soul was calling me to do, instead of doing things from like where my conditioned patterns were coming from. When I started doing things that were more aligned for me, then I started feeling like my symptoms actually got substantially better. And then as soon as I'd start pushing and, starting to do falling back into my old patterns, I would start doing worse. And it was like that my menopause symptoms became almost like the guardrails on my on this portal, on this journey of growth and transformation, of life saying, no, no, sweetie, you're going off track. This is where you need to go. And so that my symptoms I learned quickly that my symptoms were my body's way of telling me when I was on and off track. And I started to listen to that. And so what menopause for then became for me was this journey of transformation, of letting go of who I thought I was so that who I'm becoming could emerge. And that really meant beginning to live my life from the inside out rather than the outside in. And what I mean by that is really tapping into my inner wise woman, tapping into that inner wisdom, and listening to my body and the things that excite me and bring me joy and that nurture my spirit, those things that really help me to feel very alive, and also the things that my body's been asking for. That as I've been honoring the needs of my body and then following the excitement of my soul, those things have really made a difference in beginning to live my life from the inside out, versus what I had been doing previously was living my life from the outside in, which was according to conditioned patterns. The pleaser, the striver, the perfectionist, the parts of me that push myself to do all of the things that I'm supposed to be doing so that I can, achieve something. But what I found is that when I was giving from a place of my conditioned patterns, and I'll get into that, but what I mean about that a little bit more in a minute, but when I was giving from my conditioned patterns, what was happening is that I was pouring, like I was trying to pour from an empty cup. I kept digging in, and it was a place from of trying to give from a place of martyrdom and sacrifice, where I just kept digging deeper to find there must be more to give, there must be more to give, but I was like getting more and more empty. Versus what I find now is that as I'm listening to my body and nurturing my spirit and living my life from like the inside out, allowing my inner wise woman to guide me, what I find instead is that I've got so much energy. I'm so excited. I just love life. It's so fun. And what I find is that I'm really excited about giving from a place of my cup flowing over. And it's so different to be able to give. And to me, that's being of service and being like from a place that my soul has called me to be. And so as I'm able to give from a place of service and of soul alignment, a soul aligned work, I feel fantastic. It's super fun. I love doing this kind of stuff versus when I was trying to pour from an empty cup, trying to like give from a place of just like there's like of sacrifice and martyrdom, and it just wasn't working. And so that's what this menopause portal has been for me, has been this journey of transformation of life guiding me back onto the right path so that I could be where I'm meant to be, so that I can be of service. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about some of the details of what I mean by that. So the first thing was, like I said, listening to my body. And what did that mean to listen to my body? Well, it meant honoring my body's need for rest. So really prioritizing. And even though my sleep was really screwed up, making sure that even if I wasn't sleeping, that I made sure I spent enough time resting. Spending so it, One of the huge things has been time in nature, aligning myself with Mama Gaia, with Mother Nature, and being out in the forest, being next to a stream, being out by the ocean, and really feeling that support and rooting, and just that the beautiful energy of Mother Earth as I attune myself and align myself to her energy has been so healing and so regulating and so beautiful. And that's been a huge part of this. um, Another part has been making sure I'm moving my body, getting out, and especially getting outside in nature and moving my body, getting out for walks and just really getting air on my face and sun on my face and just getting out and moving. And another part has been honoring my emotions. I have gone through an alarming amount of Kleenex over the course of this journey. I had and I now realize that emotions are energy in motion. And as I allow myself to allow my tears, as I allow my tears to come up and to flow through me, as I allow them to take that energy that I'm carrying, all of those things that I'm carrying, that I'm having a hard time with, and bringing them up through my eyes and out to be released, it has been so healing and so therapeutic. I've now come to just absolutely love my tears. I love my tears because they help me to reconnect to me and my essence. And so for me, letting my tears flow has been huge. So that's what I mean in terms of like listening to my body. So coming home to myself in body, and then coming home to myself in mind has been challenging the stories that I tell myself about who I am and who I'm supposed to be in the world. Of challenging those patterns that I've learned that have served me well. Like we all have, I grew up in a patriarchy, and it served me well as a woman to be a striver and a pleaser and a perfectionist. And it's not serving my greatest good. And it's been a process of learning to let go of some of those patterns with love and compassion for the patterns so those are like, to me, my challenge, my conditioned patterns are my caterpillar. That's my caterpillar. Those were the things that got me through this far. I wouldn't have got into medical school and I wouldn't have got through medical school without being a striver and a pleaser and a perfectionist. And that's the images are meant to be that, like, they're striving so hard that you're falling asleep at your desk, or the good girl, like, I want everybody to like me, so I'm going to be really good and nice and say all of the right things. And the third one's I'm meant to represent perfectionism, and just really always pushing the, like, going the extra mile all the time for everyone in every circumstance. I've learned that that's not terribly productive, and that's maybe not the best thing for my sanity. And so learning to be compassionate about those parts of me that help me to get me to where I am, and at the same time lovingly releasing them, and really questioning them when they come up. And they are habits, they are deeply ingrained habits. And so I say this as a student of this process, not as a master. I still catch myself on, like, pushing really hard, striving. I still catch myself being a pleaser. I still catch myself being a perfectionist. And I do notice that, especially if I'm using the word should, oh, I should da 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 da, or just the ways that I push myself that really just don't feel aligned. I'm starting to learn to question those. And also, when I start doing it too much, I start getting symptoms again. I start taking on too much work. I start pushing myself too hard, trying too hard to get everything right. I start waking up at 3 in the morning, and it's like my inner wise woman is like, psst, hey, Shayna, you're getting off track again. So it's like, she's like, hello, let's get you back on track. You're falling into those old patterns again. You've got big things to do. We got to bring you back into alignment so that you can become the elder, the wise woman, the matriarch. And you're moving through a portal, and this is what you need to keep doing. And so that's been how I've been, coming home to myself in mind. And in terms of coming home to myself in spirit, that's been so nurturing my spirit. So really doing the things that feed my soul. And so the first one is meant to be, where I'm sitting with a cup of tea and reading a book or journaling. It's also meant to represent cyclic living, where, because as women, we are cyclic beings. Like, we have an in breath and an out breath of our energy every month. And I think we try to keep going and going, and we live in a linear world where we're told to push all the time. But really, rest is as important as activity. It's a breathing in and a breathing out, and a breathing in and a breathing out. And if we never take the time to slow down and exhale, how do we ever make space for the next inhale? And so it's really been slowing down, landing with myself, landing with my inner wise woman, and really learning to be present with myself. That's been huge. And I really know how to move quickly. So it's been a challenge, and it's been so worth it to the degree that I'm able to do it. The other things for nurturing my spirit has been, I've been geeking out on all things divine feminine these days. Like, I have my sacred, I've got my sacred space in here behind me, where I have like a meditation and sort of a spiritual practice that I do twice a day. I have, like, in the morning and at night. I'm involved in a number of different groups, going to ceremonies, and, playing with my tarot cards, and, like, doing all kinds of things, being in community with other women, and also exploring the divine feminine in its multiple aspects has been so fun. And so, like, it's like so juicy. I just get so excited. And I've learned that it's following my excitement. That's where the juice is. Where the things that I'm like, ooh, that sounds fun, those are the things to lean into. And so for me, the divine feminine has been a huge thing that I've really been geeking out on, and has really been nurturing my spirit. And then exploring my creativity. And so for my creativity, what that is like making my website, and creating my groups, and creating online courses, and being on podcasts, and creating slides for this presentation, and giving presentations, and giving talks, and all of this kind of stuff. This is me playing with my creativity, and which is nurturing my spirit. And it feels so good to be able to do good in the world from a place that feels exciting and aligned. And it's like my soul is going, yes, this is awesome. So So that's what it's been like for me. And so this trip through this menopause portal, it's been for me a journey of becoming, of letting go of those conditioned patterns and allowing myself to let my to kind of question and dissolve those patterns, and instead listen to my body and nurture my spirit and move through this journey of transformation so that I can emerge as the butterfly of the elder, the matriarch, the wise woman that our world so desperately needs. And the world needs all of us to do this. And so I hope that that's inspiring for you. And I do want to guide you through a short practice to help you to connect to your body and your spirit. So I invite you to, and feel free to pause the record. I'm going to pause for about 20 seconds or so at each of these different points, but feel free to pause the recording and take as much time as you want to sit with each of these concepts, and then to even enter, maybe journal for a little bit at the end. So I invite you to close your eyes or adopt a soft gaze. And take a nice big breath in through your nose, out through your mouth, allowing yourself to arrive in your body in this moment. Allowing any tension from the day to fall away, releasing any busyness, allowing your jaw to relax, allowing your shoulders to relax, allowing yourself to sink into the chair, to fully arrive in your body in this moment. Taking another big breath in through your nose, big sigh out your mouth. And asking your body, what is it that you need right now? What do you need from me? Do you need more movement, time in nature? Do you need to get out for a walk with the dog more? Do you need tickle fights with your kids? Do you need to cry, sit with a good friend? What is it that you need, body? Do you need more rest? And just take a moment to just listen. And now I invite you to ask your spirit what it needs. What is your soul whispering to you? What is it that you really long to do, that you find exciting? And if it's hard to think of those things, you might even think back to what you used to love to do when you were 6. That's often a bit of a clue. And so I invite you to just tap into your spirit on what it needs. Does it need, do you want to dance, sing, play? Do you want to make pottery, paint, get together with friends, tickle fights with your kids, hugs from a loved one? What is it what would nurture your spirit? What is your soul calling you to do? What does your soul need from you, or your spirit whispering? And just take a moment to listen. And now I invite you to notice the stories that you tell yourself about why this is not possible. What's some of the stories that your mind tells you about why you can't do these things, why you can't listen to your body or nurture your spirit? Maybe there's not enough money, not enough time, takes too much, you don't have enough energy. Just notice the stories and see if we can send some love to those stories and see if we can let them go just a little bit to make some room for listening to our bodies and nurturing our spirits. And just notice. And I invite you to take a moment to just journal or make a few notes or sit quietly with what came up for you over that time. What messages you're getting from your body, from your spirit, or the stories that you're telling yourself. And just make a few notes if there's anything you want to do differently. And now staying close to yourself, you may even want to just keep your eyes closed still. I have a reading for you from Sharon Blackie. And so she says, menopause, like all times of transition, is a time between stories, when the old story fades and a new story is waiting to emerge. It is a liminal time when we hover on the brink of profound transformation. During this time of intense physical change, it is also necessary to turn inwards, to embark on the inner work of elderhood, the work of reimagining and shaping who we want to be in the world, of gaining new perspectives on life, of challenging and evolving our belief systems, of exploring our calling, of uncovering meaning, and ultimately finding healing from a lifetime's accumulation of wounds. The trick to navigating that space is not to push too hard, but to let the new story emerge in its own time, to sit with and perhaps even learn to cherish the uncertainty. Thank you so much for your attention. If you still have your eyes closed, you can slowly bring a little bit of movement back into your fingers and toes. Shrug your shoulders around. Come back into this space. And I do encourage you to just take a few quiet moments now with yourself to just reflect on some of what you've heard and anything you may want to do differently. And I hope to see you in one of my groups, one of my offerings, or any of the other ways that I either currently show up in the world or will be showing up in the world in the future. And I am sending you all so much love as you make your way through this menopause portal. It's not for the faint of heart. This is a challenging time. And it's a reminder that we have all the answers we need within us. The challenge is learning how to listen. And so I encourage you to reconnect with your inner wise woman, to listen to your body, to nurture your spirit, to come home to yourself, to reconnect with that wise woman within, to let her guide you through this portal, this menopause portal, so that you can emerge as the butterfly you're meant to be, the butterfly of the elder, the matriarch, the wise woman. Sending you so much love.